How's it going, everyone? So in this lecture, I wanted to show you how to set up the template files that you need in order to do the demos or the tutorials that are included within this lecture PowerPoint. And in case you didn't watch the intro video, the one thing that I wanted to bring up is all of these videos were recorded last spring, and that's when we used a different textbook for the course. So as we'll look at in the next video, you actually have access to all the materials that you need in order for those videos to make sense. I gave you a scan of the portion of the textbook you need. I posted the older tutorial videos from the old textbook and so on. So sorry for the confusion. As you'll see this week, we're going to do a discussion board assignment and see where everyone is at with respect to getting access to the AutoCAD textbook. And then starting next week, or maybe even at the end of this week, we will use content from the new textbook and references from the new textbook after you're comfortable kind of going through some tutorials on your own. So let's talk about how to set up an actual template and what it is actually for. So hopefully the concept of a template is pretty familiar to you if you've used any kind of computer-based productivity apps before, like Word or PowerPoint or so on. Oftentimes you need to create a new product, and there are just certain attributes of that product that you would like to be pre-populated. Maybe it's font size, maybe it's graphical layouts. I'm not thinking of a PowerPoint here, right? Oftentimes certain visual aspects of the design we would want to be pre-configured. That way we don't have to do the work. And that's the same idea behind templates in AutoCAD. So as you might imagine in a computer program, there are templates that are already pre-saved for you. However, you can actually build your own templates. And in kind of graphics-based workflows, particularly for 2D engineering drawing like AutoCAD, you can imagine that some of those common settings that you might want to have configured are things like your units, your actual plot size, that if you were to actually print these drawings out, that they would be printed to, along with the precision, which just means the number of actual decimals to which information is displayed. It doesn't mean the actual number of decimals to which that information is stored in behind the scenes, but rather displayed. So whenever you want to create a new drawing or a new template in AutoCAD, kind of from the homepage here, you can just click New, and you will get that option. So AutoCAD, as I talked about in some of the videos that you've watched previously that I recorded in last spring, it's a very kind of antiquated and older software, but it's one that's updated every year. So whenever you have that type of software, what happens is all those new functions get built on top. And very often they don't deprecate old functions or old workflows or old ways to do things. And what that actually means is that in AutoCAD, there's often a bunch of different ways to do things. But the most simple is going to be using commands actually typed into this lower area here called the command line. So if you left click into it, the good thing about the command line is it's pretty intuitive. The names of the commands that you want often sound like exactly what you would think they are. So in the case of actually setting up the units for a drawing, you can start to type the word unit. And what you will see is an autofill option that actually looks just like units. And if you take your mouse and you hover over that, you will see a tooltip that tells you what this is doing, this particular command. And it sounds like exactly what we want. Controls the displayed precision and format for coordinates and angles. So I can either keep typing units all the way, or I can left click on that, and I'll get a little user interface that opens. And from here, I can set my unit type. So don't worry about this type of the length-based or linear dimension for now. Just know that decimal is basically a generalized format that kind of can be interpreted in any insertion scale that you drag down from this menu. Now, here's what that means. If you draw a line on a computer, the computer just kind of understands it's in its own local coordinate system. Just think of it about like pixels, right? You draw a line that's this long. The computer interprets that as so many units within its file system. However, you can interpret that amount of units in any actual physical linear dimension that you want. So if you want to interpret it in dimensions, then if you draw a 4-unit line, that will be interpreted as 4 inches. If you turn this setting down to millimeters and you draw a 4-unit line, it will be interpreted as 4 millimeters. Precision by default, I don't believe will be in the hundreds place. I generated these files for full disclosure before I recorded this video, so you want to drag that down to 0.00. Make sure whenever you're working in AutoCAD, don't X out, be sure to click OK, and you will see you can verify if you type units again, which you could just notice that if you have your settings configured correctly, you can type directly next to your tooltip to make it an even quicker process for you. But what I want to show you is if I left click down on the command line and then hit up, I have access to the last command that I typed. And if I open that user interface again, I see that the settings that I've set have kind of stuck with the file. So I'll click OK. In addition to typing on the command line, there's often many other ways in which you can access the function that you want using the actual graphical user interface up here in, well, either the ribbon or kind of this quick tools menu in the upper left. So for actually working with setting the plot size, which is the physical size on which your drawing would be printed, it might be intuitive to you that you would go to the Output tab, and then you click on this Page Setup Manager. And then what you're seeing here is the fact that you can actually set up multiple page setups. And that's probably not surprising to you because you might be generating plots in a lot of different physical sizes, one of which is the plot size that we're going to set up here, which is standard paper, 8.5 by 11, not turned vertically, but turned horizontally into landscape mode. So typically the best practice would be to set up a page setup manager for a lot of different settings, but I'm just going to modify the model one now. Notice that by default, the only thing we want to change here is the paper size. It is an 11 by 8.5. Now, if you think about the way that it's going to be set up for you, it's probably going to be 8.5 by 11. That's the default on AutoCAD. That is width by height. So 8.5 by 11 is taller than it is wide. We want it to be 11 by 8.5. So if I click OK, right, and then I click Close again, I will have the capability to save in this drawing. Right now, we've set up the precision, the units, and the plot or page size. So I want to save this as a template so that if I need access to those particular settings again, I can base all my new drawing files on that old template. So the way that you do that, you go up here to the Quick Access toolbar in the upper left. You hover over the Save As button, left click on it. If you change the files of type down to a .dwt file, notice that where you're saving at will actually modify. You'll go to this Templates folder in AutoCAD. And what you want to call this one is set-inch.dwt. The reason that you don't have to type the file type as long as you have the setting below. The reason that mine auto-populated, again, is I've already done this. So when I click save, it will ask me if I want to overwrite. Yours won't, but just click yes. You can actually set a description here. I added plot size as ANSI landscape 11 inches by 8.5 inches. You could add additional content like this is our drawing for this particular customer or whatever it may be. So customize as you wish, click OK. And then I'm going to actually close this template file. And notice now if you want to create a new drawing that's based upon that template, rather than just click the new button, I'm going to click the arrow next to the new button. And I'm going to click Browse Templates. And I can actually create a new drawing that has the template settings of anything that's preloaded within AutoCAD or that new template that I just made, which was set-inch.dwt. So if you double click on that template, notice you get a new drawing. And if you check its units by typing like the command units, notice that it has the precision and units that we want. And in addition, if we were to go over and check the page setup, we'll notice that the paper size is in 11 by 8.5 inches. So that is the file that you need. I'm actually going to provide it for you. But if you want to generate it, I would encourage you to try to open one of them, kind of verify that the precision, the units, and the page size are correct. And then the second, try to actually generate it yourself. And if you're wondering where these numbers came from, they're in the actual old textbook that we used to use. So I didn't include that portion of the text in your scan just due to copyright laws, but I didn't just make them up myself. In order to be able to do these tutorials, you need templates that are set up with those configurations.